Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Laces Out podcast, our NFL podcast. Well, the season is well and truly underway. We are looking at week 3 of the 2025 season, and we're going to be going over what happened in week 2. We've got it all. We've got the news, we've got the stats, we've got what the predictions looked like, who won the week, who won the side bet, who won money. It's all about winning just for half of the teams in the NFL. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. The big one, the best one, our firm favourite. If you're listening to this, presumably you like the NFL. Maybe you know other people who like the NFL. And maybe you want to send this podcast in their direction and say, hey, I like this. Maybe you will too. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast. Laces out.
Oh, those simple words. Yes, that's it, correct, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. It is another week on the CookieCast Podcast Network, and we are bringing to you the Laces Out NFL podcast. We're here to go through the happenings of week 2 and look forward to what's going to happen in week 3. But I'm not doing it alone, ladies and gentlemen. That's correct. For those of you joining us on YouTube, you'll be able to see my stunning co-host, Mr. Andrew Cook. How are we this week, sir?
I have tricked you. That's how I am. I told you it was you to lead this week, and I am immediately going to hijack the beginning of this podcast. I have business to discuss.
Oh my.
Now, in the past, I have been accused of being many things. A monster, a dictator, a dick. And one of those things is I've been accused of a man who does not follow through with the things that he promises our lovely watchers and listeners. And I am here this week to rectify that misdoing. This, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be known through the rest of this season as the envelope. Backwards on my screen, but I'm hoping forwards on your screen, is the envelope written, the 2025 NFL predictions on the back, so that there is no way to tamper. This is not my real signature. This is my internet signature. So feel free to copy it and try and take out many, many debts in it. This is not my real signature. This is for the purpose of this podcast. This is the time. This is the date. It is written across where the envelope is sealed so that it cannot be tampered with. I will also provide what was the running commentary for this. This is a photograph taken on my device. That is not the envelope. That is what's in the envelope. That is the envelope. That is the envelope signed. Over the course of the rest of this season, there will be many mentions of what could possibly be in this envelope, and it applies to this podcast. I'll find a way to either suspend it here, like this, for the next X number of weeks, or, like I said, I might just duct tape it to the screen behind me. But there we go. I have righted a wrong, grammatically and figuratively. Anyway, other than that, I'm fine. How are you?
Yes, I am very well. We don't tend to talk about fantasy as much on the podcast these days, but I did bounce back from a a disappointing week 1 to get on the board, as it were, in week 2. But we can leave it there. We don't have to go into fantasy too much.
Let's not leave it there. Let's follow through. I know what you're saying. You're saying, what do the Kansas City Chiefs and this guy have in common? Our season record in not one, and I do mean, for you watchers, 2 fantasy leagues. And I know what you're thinking. Well, you probably saw it coming. No, because I was going to win both games going into the last games of the week. Both. And in the league that I share with my gorgeous co-host and other previous and to-be-announced guests, I looked at my bench and I went, do you know what? There's absolutely nothing I could do there. Absolutely nothing I could have done to change the outcome. In my other league, however, if I'd have changed 2 players, I would have gained 2 points from one of those 2 players. And that would have been the deciding factor. The additional 25 points I would have gained from the other player would have probably put that one to bed quite nicely. So now we can not talk about fantasy ever again.
It's one of those situations where if you didn't laugh, you would cry. Yes, the joys of fantasy.
All great teams start 0-2.
Well, we won't dwell on it for too much longer. So, we'll go through the happenings of week 2. Of course, for those of you new to the podcast, myself and Mr. Cook make our picks for the week 2 games. So we each get 16 picks. We go one way or the other. Normally there's a little bit of variation in there. Every now and again, we do pick the exact same way. This week was one of those situations where there was only one difference in all of the games that we picked, and it was the Patriots-Dolphins game. So that was basically what was going to decide the week.
Yeah, it was. But
You may be able to tell from Andy's tone there that it didn't go his way. So, yes, I did indeed win the week. I will keep people in suspenders no longer. I would go through all the games, but like I say, it's really not that important because obviously we had exactly the same picks up until the Patriots-Dolphins game. So the only ones that we got wrong was collectively we had the Steelers to beat the Seahawks, which did not happen. The Vikings to beat the Falcons, which did not happen. And the Broncos to beat the Colts, which did not happen. Also, Andy, as mentioned before, had the Dolphins to beat the Patriots, whereas I had it the other way around. So I take the win this week with 13 of 16 selections correct. Sadly, Mr. Cook with his 12 of 16 selections. Not enough to get him on the board.
I'm sorry, picking 12 of 16 games correct and losing the week, part of me's okay with it. I'm not going to lie. Part of me's all right. I'm at 94% on my pigskin pick'em. I'm like, does make me 35,000. Well, I'm guessing it's the world. Again, didn't think that was too bad.
So what that does mean is obviously it brings us level 1 point apiece. But in the slight change that we're making to well, not a change, it's one alteration, should I say, that we're making to our addition we're making to the podcast this year. I'm tracking the number of picks that were correct across the whole of the NFL season. So 32 games played. I have 23 of those 32 games picked correctly. Andy has 25 picked correctly. So I will, of course, double check that as we go through. So I had 10 of 16 last week, 13 of 16 this week. So yeah, 10 plus 15, 10 plus 13 is 23. Andy had 13 of 16 last week, 12 of 16 this week, so 25. So we'll keep those running tallies going throughout the course of the season. Side bet?
Sure.
Side bet. Again, for those of you unfamiliar with the format of the podcast, myself and Mr. Cook pick 4 teams that we think are absolutely guaranteed to win each week. And again, we track how many of those we get correct and incorrect throughout the course of the season. So, I went first with the pick this week. I picked the Dallas Cowboys to beat the New York Giants. And I was obviously sweating on that one until Big Leg Brandon decided to split the uprights in overtime to give the Cowboys the win.
2 overtime. And then won in overtime.
I didn't.
This week.
I might potentially be standing on the toes of the stats later on, but obviously the stat that in the entirety of the NFL, field goals made over 64 yards, Brandon Aubrey has 2. The rest of the NFL collectively has 2. So, yes, kind of to say that he is nails would probably be an accurate statement there. So yes, I had the Cowboys to beat the Giants. I had the Lions to beat the Bears, the Rams to beat the Titans, and it was all riding on the Vikings beating the Falcons, which obviously they did not do. And not only that, they lost their starting quarterback for a number of weeks. So not a great day for the Vikings on Sunday night. That means I go from 3 from 4 to 6 from 8 for the season. How did Mr. Cook go? Well, he selected the Cincinnati Bengals to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, close one, but they got the job done. He had the Buffalo Bills to beat the New York Jets, the Arizona Cardinals to beat the Carolina Panthers, and the San Francisco 49ers to beat the New Orleans Saints. So gets a 4 from 4, a full vote, Mr. Cook, this week, to put him on 7 from 8 selections correct. So, Mr. Cook moves ahead in the side bet by 1 point. That just leaves us with our bankers and outsiders, our little bet that we put on. So we pick pretty much as straightforward as it says in the tin. We each pick a team that is favourite in the betting, and we each pick a team that is classed as the underdog in the betting. This week, my favourite was or my banker, as it were, was the Lions to beat the Bears. That came in. My outsider was the Patriots to beat the Dolphins, which also came in. And his banker was the Bengals to beat the Jags. And then his outsider was a risky pick, in as much as it was out there, but it was a divisional game. Rivals. You never know what can happen in divisional games. But it was the Jets to beat the Bills, sadly. So 3 out of 4 ain't bad, but when it comes to betting, it's as good as nothing. So sadly, the bankers and outsiders for this week did not come in. So we moved to week 3, and we'll see if we can get some cashish into the coffers of the CookieCast podcast network. But sadly, for now, it's a big fat zilch.
I am desperately trying to find the stat that I've seen multiple times today, and it's always the way. You see it, then you never find it. Part of me's like, maybe I should look in the stats and see if it's in there. It's the... yeah, doesn't matter. I'll look it up instead.
Speaking of stats,
because I was like, obviously, the best way to move on from there would be no. Oh, I thought that was it, and it's not. Damn it! It's the kicking thing. I'll look it up in a minute. So I got a phone call. Phone call said, "When are you recording the NFL podcast this week?" And I said, "Tuesday." And this mysterious caller, who was suspiciously absent last week, said, "Leave it with me." And I was like, "This is weird. This is strange." And then in my inbox was an email entitled NFL Week 2 Stats. Boom. Credit only given to USA Today. That's all I've got here. I've just got USA Today. But that'll do. Obviously, we send our credit to the stats mistress, who was well and truly on the bobby this week to make up for last week. Number one, 7 months after Philly finished Kansas City three-peat bid, the Eagles won 2017 in Sunday's Super Bowl rematch. I'm not sure how much I feel that is a start compared to just average burn. I'm a bit like, not sure where the stat is at. I feel it's just a giant middle finger. Super Bowl MVP Patrick Mahomes is 0-2 for the first time in his 9-year NFL career. As of his Kansas City Chiefs, who have won 9 straight AFC West crowns, they're 0-2 for the first time since 2014, which is also the last time they missed the postseason. Now, I don't want to foreshadow anything. I don't think they're going to go 0-3, let's put it that way. Will Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce rue returning for a 13th NFL season when he could be sampling potential wedding cakes? A week after taking out teammate Xavier Worthy while running a poor route, Kelce's deflection of a Mahomes pass at the goal line into an Eagles interception, effectively sparking a 14-point swing. Philly scored what turned out to be the decisive touchdown on its ensuing drive. Now, it's a team game. It's a team effort. I don't think you can say that in this case. I feel that that was, I mean, it says it there, that was solely responsible sort of situation. So, yeah. Some tough conversations, I imagine, in the locker room for the Chiefs. Number 4, the AFC North leading Cincinnati Bengals are 2-0 for the first time since 2018. The severity of quarterback Joe Burrow's toe injury, which knocked him out most of Sunday's victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars and threatens to sideline him much longer, may, however, impact this going forward. Obviously, we have had confirmation that he is going to be out for months at this point.
So the report that I'd seen and that had been sort of given was that he will miss at least 3 months, and apparently that was determined to be like a best case scenario. So the chance that it's probably going to be longer, which probably means, yeah, he's pretty much done. He's pretty much done for the season.
The thing that worries me the most is the number of times I've heard the name Andrew Luck in the last few days. Because no matter how many times somebody draws like a comparison and you go, and apparently if you look at the stats for how many times Andrew Luck was sacked in his career, and you look at the fact that Joe Burrows is way over that number already, you do kind of wonder. Number 5, New York Giants quarterback Russell Wilson, 36, was 2 yards shy of matching his career best for passing yards, 4.52, in Sunday's 40-37 overtime loss to the Dallas Cowboys. I probably have a lot to say about this, but I am very aware of I have a tendency to run off on a tangent. What I will say is this much. I appreciate the Giants lost. Now, some would say that is the way of the Giants. So, it did go to overtime, which, you could look at getting all the way to overtime. There were a couple of plays in that game that reminded me of Russell Wilson of old. Throwing the ball practically the length of the field and it being caught, you go, whoo! Nice. Number 6, and he's already had a mention, but he's back again. Dallas's Brandon Aubrey, unassailably the league's best kicker, scored 16 points total with 4 field goals and point after apiece. Aubrey hit a 64-yarder at the end of regulation to send the game into overtime and drilled a 46-yarder to win. He might be the Cowboys' most important player.
As stupid as it sounds, it's hard to debate, isn't it? Because if they can't, obviously, if they can't punch it in, then they're going to be relying on, getting threes.
It's all right, guys. We'll just get the kickers. That's never a good look. I'm sorry.
It's not ideal.
My final stat, it is what it is, I'm afraid. But my final stat is 5 NFL quarterbacks ever have at least 500 regular season touchdown passes. Aaron Rodgers threw his 508th on Sunday, tying former teammate Brett Favre for 4th place all time. It's one of those things, isn't it, that the longer you stay in the game, the more chances you have of breaking all of those records. We had the Tom Brady being there for many, 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 many years meant that over time, records just fell away from the fact that he was just ultimately because he was playing the game as long as he was and is due to return to playing the game.
I do think part of that with Brady was a case of, I feel like I can still play, but I kind of need to anyway because I'm that close to this record that I might as well get it. I'm this close to this record, so I might as well get it. I imagine that's just basically what went through his head because he's an egomaniac.
It's one of those things that say what you want. The situation with the old being in the coach's booth sort of situation of as you are Tom Brady, you're allowed a lot of leeway with a lot of things. But if it's anyone else, that is the end of my stats. I hand over to you, sir, for some more delicious stats.
Yes, indeed. We continue with there are 8, count them, 8 2-0 teams following Sunday's games. For now, the Bills, the Colts, the Bengals, the Packers, the 49ers, the Eagles, the Cardinals, and the Rams stand among the unbeatens who have played twice. There are 9 0-2 teams following Sunday's games. For now, the Chiefs, Titans, Jets, Browns, Dolphins, Saints, Panthers, Bears, and Giants are all quickly descending into desperation mode. I believe you can add the Chargers to the 2-0 brigade, just looking at it. And the Bucks, for that matter. I believe the Bucks are also 2-0. Colts kicker Spencer Schrader has made 14 successful field goals in 6 NFL games, split across 3 different teams. He drilled 5 on Sunday, including the game-winning 45-yarder at the gun in Indy's 29-28 defeat of the Denver Broncos. That is after he had missed the 60-yard attempt just mere seconds before, but the obviously penalty drawn from the Broncos allowed him the re-kick from 45, and he nailed it. 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey caught 1 of Mac Jones' TD strikes at the weekend, making him the 3rd NFL player ever with at least 50 career rushing touchdowns plus 30 through the air. Hall of Famers Lenny Moore and Marshall Faulk are the others. Dare I suggest that he will be joining them in camp one day. In a battle, the former New York Jets quarterbacks, the Seattle Seahawks' Sam Darnold, got the best of the Pittsburgh Steelers' Aaron Rodgers in the latter's Acrisure Stadium debut. Both were picked off twice in a fairly sloppy affair that also saw Seattle recover a kickoff in the Steelers' end zone for a touchdown. That was so bad, and I wouldn't be surprised if that particular special team player gets a little bit of a dressing down in the old Steelers locker room. Just 2 more for me to finish us off this week. The Los Angeles Rams' 33-19 defeat of the Tennessee Titans featured a meeting of the league's newest number 1 overall pick, Titans quarterback Cam Ward, against its oldest active number 1 overall pick, the Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford, the 2009 draft. And finally, 26 penalties for a total of 266 yards were recorded in the Cowboys-Giants thriller. It's a good thing the team has made a potential slot fest watchable with 77 points and nearly 1,000 yards of offense. Jesus Christ. And about half of that was Russell Wilson.
And I found the thing that I was, it does count as a stat as well. So it's a bonus stat. It has kept me laughing most of the day because I've seen it so many times and it's flipping hilarious. You're not going to punt too much here. Is the text that Caleb Williams sent to Toby Taylor. Tory, sorry. That's what he called bad on. Tory Taylor has punted 92 times since he received that text. And that is the most in the NFL currently. So, in a world of things that don't age well, that text message aged like milk.
Oh,
you've got
there's almost no coming back from that, is there? Like, yeah.
You've got to think
Caleb.
that somebody that sends that message is basically asking for it. Like it's like it writes itself. It's just, oh, you're not going to be doing this. Highest in the NFL. Because that's the only way it becomes funny, surely. That's what they were going for. Let's make this one hilarious, shall we? Tell him. It's like that whole Impractical Jokers thing. It is like, tell him he's not going to have to punt too many times while he's here. God, do it. now make him punt more than any other team. Anyway, so that's done. Is that everything from last week?
Week 2, done and dusted, wrapped up neatly with that bow on top. That just means we can move swiftly, DeAndre swiftly, if you will, into week 3. But before we jump into week 3, me and this guy, we're going to take a very, very short break just to refresh ourselves, maybe get another drink, and then we'll come right back at you with week 3's games, our picks, our side bet, of course, the pound that we're going to lose on the Packers and the Outsiders this week, no doubt. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. And just like that, the break is up, and we are back. So, week 2 is put in its place, rightfully. It's been consigned to the annals of history. Week 3 brings with it 16 more games. I believe from week 4, potentially. It's either week 4 or week 5. We start with the, I was going to say the international games, but we've already had one already seen because of the Rio de Janeiro. I was going to say debacle. It wasn't a debacle. It was just a great game. So, as per usual, myself, Mr. Cook, we've made our picks. I have them in the book, and I will go through them thusly. So we start off with the Thursday Night Football. Oh dear. It's the Miami Dolphins. And they've got a nice, easy trip to the Buffalo Bills.
Do we think this will be the biggest scoring game of a team in the history of the NFL? Do we think we're going to see a 70-point Bills game to steal?
I don't think it'll be that. I don't think it'll be that bad, and I'm pretty sure actually. Is it not the Dolphins or the Broncos that got the current record for the highest points? So, I would go so far as to say, in fact, I'll have a check. But I would be fairly confident in thinking that this is probably the game with the biggest point spread on the betting this week. I would imagine that the Bills start as heavy favourites, and I would imagine it'll definitely double digits on the handicap. Let's have a look. Spreads. Oh my word! So you can get as high as the Buffalo Bills minus 19.5 points. So, basically, if you think they're going to win by 20 plus points, you can get them at 7-4, and even that's not that good a price. So
I'm going to put fiver on it.
Like I say, heavy favourites. Might not be the only time we hear the Bills' names, mentioned in this section of the podcast this evening, but we'll get to that later. Surprise, surprise, we've both taken the Bills. We'll then move to the Sunday 6 p.m. slot of games. The Sunday 6 p.m. slate of games sees the Atlanta Falcons at the Carolina Panthers. Surprise, surprise, we've both taken the Falcons. The Packers at the Cleveland Browns. Oh dear God, we've both taken the Packers. We have the Texans at the Jaguars. It's a divisional matchup, and we have our first difference of opinion. Andy has taken the Texans. I've gone with the Jags with the home field advantage to get the win there.
So,
next up.
I not to get too in the weeds on this one, I nearly used this game to cheat by picking it in both directions. We will come to this. I am aware that you and I use different betting apps, and my fear was that your odds would have been different to mine, because my odds would have allowed me to predict the team I thought was going to win the game and then pick the other team to be my outsider. So I was technically using this game twice. However, just to be on the safe side, not to foreshadow anything, but just to be on the safe side, I was like, I think your odds will be different, and I think you'll throw out my selection. So, yes.
So, next up, we have the Bengals at the Vikings. Now, this is going to be a matchup where it's two backup quarterbacks playing.
Yeah.
So what have you got? You've got, Christ, I can't even think of what his name is now. Browning for Cincinnati, I think. And I believe for Minnesota, it's Carson Wentz.
It is Carson Wentz. He has already been confirmed as their starter for this week. I believe, whether you believe the rumors or not, I believe that the Bengals are desperately scrambling around for another quarterback at the moment because they will be down to 2 and well into oh shit territory. So
this is where people will be testing the waters and thinking that Kirk Cousins can still get the job done. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kirk Cousins' name gets thrown around for some of these teams that need quarterback in the shop.
I imagine they've probably already signed him at this point.
Surprise, we've both taken the Bengals, even though both teams will be coming to this banged up.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the Steelers at the Patriots. Could have gone either way on this one, but we have both taken the Steelers. We've got the Rams at the Eagles, and even though both teams are 2-0, we've gone for the straight up Eagles on this one. I think home field advantage probably plays a lot into that. We have the Jets at the Buccaneers. We've both taken the Buccaneers. Colts at the Titans. We've both taken the Colts. And the last one of the 6 p.m. games is the Raiders at the Washington Commanders, and we've both taken the Washington Commanders. Into the 9 o'clock or the 9-hour slate of games, and there's 4. We have the Broncos at the Chargers. We've both taken the Chargers. The Saints at the Seahawks. We've both backed Seattle there. We have the Cowboys at the Bears. Strangely, if we've both taken the Cowboys there, even though the Bears are at home. Lastly, in the 9 o'clock slot, the 9:25, we have the Cardinals at the 49ers, and this is another one we have a difference of opinion. I've taken the Cardinals, and Andy has gone with the 49ers. I don't know if it's just the backups that are going to be in the first team that the Niners are going to be missing. I think the Cardinals are a bit more strong than the teams that have played so far this season. So I just fancy the Cardinals to get the what I believe would be the upset there. Again, we might come to that later. We then have the Sunday Night Football, where the Chiefs travel to New York to take on the Giants. And we've both taken the Giants. Both taken the Chiefs to
Hey, it's almost like I foreshadowed that earlier by saying, I don't see them going 0-3. Now then.
Well, technically, they are currently on an 0-3 losing streak. As if you factor in they lost the Super Bowl.
Yes. Also, I came out earlier in the season and said, I think Russell Wilson's heading towards the twilight of his career. I think he's a long way from the days of winning Super Bowls with the Seahawks and far, far away from Legion of Doom territory. However, if you were to want to maybe make a statement at your new team that doesn't look terrible for once, maybe this would be the kind of game to pull out all the stops and really send a message, having not been too far off winning your last game. Just throwing that one out there, just giving it as an option, just.
See what happens. And we finish the week with the Monday Night Football. And dare I say, it's another one of those games where you look at it and think, could we potentially be looking at the Super Bowl being played in front of us already, as we see the Detroit Lions travelling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. It's another one where we've got a difference of opinion. I've gone with the Lions. Shock horror. And Andy has gone with the hometown Ravens. Honestly, this one was a bit of a 50-50 for me. I can see that the Ravens will probably be the favourites. But the fact that the Lions hung 50 on the Bears, I know it was the Bears, still they managed to get themselves back to winning ways in week 2.
I really wanted to pick the Lions. 2 things. One, bearing in mind having lost, to bring it back to the fantasy, having lost both of my fantasy games this week, I did notice that one of the reasons, I'm not saying it's the main reason, I'm not saying it's the sole reason, I'm not putting it down to one player, but when you've got Derrick Henry and he's in your lineup, he gets all of 2 points, you go, well, that was interesting. I desperately wanted to pick the Lions. I want to pick the Lions and I want to be able to pick the Lions. This is, unfortunately, the Lions. We're talking about the Lions have looked amazing in the last season and they were looking good in the season before. You can't ignore everything that's come before it, and the Lions are always one bad game away from being terrible. So, in a situation where you've got the fairly dominant Ravens at this point in time versus the let's just see how it goes Lions, I had to take what I felt was maybe a safe bet. Something that has kept me laughing for a few days now. The Sunday Conversation. I don't know if you saw it. I was going to forward it on, but I felt it was maybe not the move this time, because the Sunday Conversation last week was with Lamar Jackson. And I was like, I should forward this on. Don't think it's going to get a great reception if I do. So I maybe leave it for now. The closing comment was talking about crabs. And the final question was, what do you say to people who say that Lamar Jackson is like a crab? This was off the back of Baltimore's got crabs. And Lamar Jackson was like laughing at it and stuff. And the final comment was, no arms, but great legs. And I was like, mwah. And that was it. That was the close. And I was like, that. I love the Sunday Conversation. I think it's fantastic, especially when they get a good old-fashioned NFL player on. And the rest of it was reasonably tame. The Baltimore has crabs was funny. And Lamar, what if Lamar Jackson? What if they said you were a crab? And just to finish it off, I was like, brilliant. Yes, there is our. So something I know, like I say, I try not to ramble too much because I get just way too excited. Something I did want to point out, and I wasn't sure how this week was going to go. I don't want to be that guy, but I knew the games that we were going to differ on purely because your kryptonite is, I don't want to say 2 particular teams, but it would show in a couple of the picks from this week. What I was going to highlight were week 3, and barring a couple of teams and a couple of picks, we are completely aligned on all other games 3 weeks into the season. Being 3 weeks in and being that close kind of makes you think that the league, the way things are going, it kind of already leans itself to, you can start making those more confident picks. You can start saying this team's going to win, this team's going to struggle, Do we think the Dolphins are going to put an upset on the Bills this week? Probably not. Do we think the Dolphins head coach is going to get fired fairly soon? So, where to, my friend?
Well, it just takes us to the side bet, and then obviously we'll finish off the week with the bankers and the outsiders that we've both picked. So, as said before, you are currently leading in the side bet, 7 points to 6. So it's on me to decide whether I want the first pick or to put you into that. So I will take the first pick in this week's side bet, and I will take the Buffalo Bills to handsomely beat the Miami Dolphins. Over to you for your 2 picks.
Some would argue it's a crazy night. But some would say, absolutely. 91% of people would agree that the Chiefs to beat the New York Giants is possibly the next place to go. On that one, I'm going to avoid that game like the plague, and I'm going to jump over to... Ooh, that's a good one. Is there a better one? Probably avoid that game, if I'm honest. I don't like. Okay, so I think for my second pick, I will take the. No, I can't do it. I was close. I nearly made it. I think I'm going to say the Seahawks to beat the Saints. Obviously, early on in the season, we alluded to basically every safe pick going forward is going to be whoever's playing the Saints. And I think maybe sticking with that format for now whilst we're in a position to do so. So I think that might be an okay-ish pick. 96% of people would agree.
That is where I would have been going had that have been on the slate for me to have had my jollies with. However, I will take the Green Bay Packers to defeat the Cleveland Browns.
Wow. I'd have thought out of principle. Then, you'd have struggled.
Yeah, you would have thought so, but it turns out I have no principles. So, I was okay with it. And then I will take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to put a hurting on the New York Jets. And then I am going to panic, as I believe when it comes to my 4th pick, I am going to have to pick from a lot of shit.
Normally, I would struggle to pick this team in this position. However, from a numbers perspective, from a everything pointing in a particular direction perspective, I am going to take the Indianapolis Colts, the 2-0 Indianapolis Colts, to beat the 0-2 Tennessee Titans. There was a lot of, the Colts celebrating winning their second game, and there was a lot of, was it a fluke? Was it a genuine win? Did they truly do that? However, I would say the Colts may have fluked their way to 2-0. I don't think the Titans have fluked their way to 0-2. So let's clip that bit out for next week when I'm eating some delicious humble pie.
And your final selection?
There's a game right there that by the numbers, and there's a game there that again, numbers-wise. Oh. Hang on. Have you already taken the Falcons?
No.
Well, guess what? I'll take the Atlanta Falcons to do the right thing and put an absolute hurt on the dog shit Carolina Panthers. Unfortunately, I have ruined our clean record by putting out our first swear of the podcast. I was almost going to get away with marking this as not a rude one and getting some of those additional views. But however, I could not let it slide.
That just leaves me with the rest of the games to try and pick a absolute nailed on winner from. Oof, this is tough. That's what we've got left on the slate. We've got the Texans and the Jags. Could take the Jags.
Yeah, like I say, there was that thing earlier where I was like, you could double dip and take a different team to the one you picked and just really double down. Obviously, you'll potentially lose a point anywhere there.
It's fine. I've seen where I'm going. They're at home. They're hurting. They're coming off a loss. So give me the Washington Commanders to
that
beat
is absolutely the game that I looked at and went, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. That's the one for me. That is absolutely hang on a minute. Carolina Panthers, you say? And that was the decision right there, because they're on my screen. They are on top or underneath each other, whichever way you look at it. And I was like, Commanders, Raiders. Yeah.
There is one thing that slightly concerns me, that apparently that's that Jaden Daniels has got some form of knee injury, like he's got a strained knee or something like that. So he might potentially miss the game. But I think it was more likely that he'd play than he wouldn't at this particular point, like yesterday. So we'll roll with it. We'll roll. So all that leaves us to do is to go through the outsiders and the bankers that we picked this week. So it was my turn to pick first. So my banker that I selected was, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs at the New York Giants, and I got those at odds of 4-11 for the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the New York Giants. My outsider pick was the Arizona Cardinals at the San Francisco 49ers. I believe the 49ers were 5-6, and with the Arizona Cardinals odds of even money, they were classed as the outsider on that one, so that was allowed for me to pick. Andy's banker, he has picked the Buffalo Bills, and they're 1-9 odds to beat the Miami Dolphins. And Andy's outsider pick, which I don't mind, it's an 8-5 shot, but he has gone with the Los Angeles Rams to defeat the Philadelphia Eagles. That is, I must admit, if I was an Eagles fan, I wouldn't be looking at this game as a bit of a gimme. I would have slight concerns over this. Rams have looked fairly decent. So,
but I look at the Rams as that. I think at this point in time, I've made absolutely no attempt to hide the Rams are on my shit list, because I believe that they bought a Super Bowl and did it in some rather dodgy ways, and so on and so forth, blah, 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 blah. But game knows game at the end of the day, and I think that the Rams are doing what the Rams do, which is by basically spending the season trying their bestest to go under the radar as much as possible. So I almost hate to say it, but they do look pretty good at the moment. Let's put it this way. If this time next week we were having a conversation that went along the lines of, can you believe the Rams won that game? The answer would probably be, yeah. absolutely. It was a close game, but they pulled out at the end, or that 60-yard field goal that put them across the line, etc. All of those combinations of ways of winning wouldn't super surprise. So, yeah, we could be in for some cash money.
Fingers crossed. All those particular games added together does give us odds of 6.88 to 1. So the pound stake on will obviously return £7.88 that will go straight in our coffers, be reinvested for week 4's picks. Come back next week to find out how we got on. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your lot for this week. Thank you very much, as always, to the main man himself, the leader of the Cookie Cast podcast network, Mr. Andrew Cook. Thank you to all of you, the listeners, the viewers. Obviously, if this is your first time here, thank you very much. We're very happy that you stumbled across us. It's not just the NFL podcast that we knock out here at the Cookie Cast podcast network. We also have football, round-shaped, where we discussed the goings-on Middlesbrough, Nottingham Forest, and Hull City. We also have a wrestling podcast that we drop once a month, where we talk about the upcoming premium live event for the WWE. And if Formula One is your thing, the guys at the Straight to the Apex podcast will cover every race in its entirety for the foreseeable future. The jewel in the crown, however, is Mr. Cook's Darkest Timeline podcast, where he just takes you through all the goings on inside that beautiful bonds of his. Lovely stuff. We will be back in about a week's time to discuss the goings on of week 3 in the National Football League. But until then, take care of yourselves, stay classy, and we will see you in a week. Tatty bye for now.
So there you go, what do you think to that? Another one done, another one gone. One of these weeks we might get a guest. We used to have guests every week, then we had guests some weeks, and now we don't have any guests. So, honestly, we will get a guest at some point, I promise. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, thank you for being here. Before you leave us, if you're new here, click all the buttons. Just any button you can see on the screen, click it. Like, click. Share, click. Subscribe, click. Leave a review where you can leave a review, and check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we have social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. Send us your predictions, people. Send your predictions, get in the book. Get a prize. Beat us in the predictions, we will send you either 2 prizes or 1 big prize that might be shaped like a jersey, perhaps. Anyway, that's enough from me. That's enough from this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to CookieCast. Please make sure to like, share and subscribe.